As per your fraud, to whom it may concern, a vast fraud upon all of humanity has recently come to my attention, and something you may or may not be aware of, depending on your job, role, title, as it relates to government, post office, legal, lawful occupations, law enforcement, military, etc. There is much confusion with many in that one's true name given to them is assumed and presumed to only be a legal name, which it certainly is not. The fraud is presuming one is automatically a legal name in things like mortgages, loans, tickets, fines, taxes, etc., where in fact no disclosure of the intent to commit fraud, entice human into slavery via deception, etc. et al. From the true owner of all legal names, copyright, namely the owners and authors of the Crown Corporation, was never offered, rendering all things legal, lawful, null and void, since it is based on fraudulent intent ab initio. Ab, since before initio began. Since before it began. As a case in point, if someone were to know the difference between the legal name and their true name, which sounds the same, they would be immediately in contempt of every court on this planet if they set foot in one, knowing this, but would also be deemed crazy for even being there, if even only to explain this mistake of assumption, deception. Every judge, justice, or mayor, chief justice, would instantly be guilty of aiding and abetting fraud, which they are anyway, based on their own rules, if someone makes it known to them in a bar-crowned courtroom. While it is not and never my intent to harm anyone, it is also not my intent to place anyone who is unknowingly taking an active role in the theft, slavery, and murdering spiritually humanity as a whole. It is a simple case of damned if you do and damned if you don't, if one carries any form of fraudulent identification, which can only be created after the fact of the birth certificate intent to commit fraud on every mother, father, and child. It is a fact that a birth certificate is not evidence of identity, yet all forms of identification can only be obtained upon the presentment of this intent to commit fraud evidence document. It's quite simple, really. As another simple example of this, nothing in the legal commerce world could, can, or would exist without this legal name fraud in place. That puts everyone with using all forms of legal identification immediately in a state of false personation, fraud, and countless other capital crimes, for the mere free will consent and thinking one actually is a legal name, which they certainly are not. A legal name only exists on paper in a flat earth, two-dimensional paper sea, where those defrauded via deception into using one, thinking they are one, are the very ones that give this dead-by-consent fictional reality its existence at all. It's quite insane, really, when you think about it. When one uses the fraudulent legal name identification, one's own body is assumed, presumed property of the Crown by virtue of the GIFT, gift, see Black's Law, gamete interfallopian transfer, i.e. the point of conception, of the given name, as a result of non-disclosure of this fact to any and all who register their child, pronounced killed, as per Phoenician law, inasmuch as they are also likely registered themselves as slaves per the same fraud perpetrated on their mother and father. The delineation here is quite clear, where the Crown presumes ownership of the physical body via this fraud, where the true living spirit, completely separate from physical, is in control of that vessel, but not of that vessel. Visit a local funeral home to verify lack of spirit in a dead body to see the difference between life source consciousness, present, present, or absent, absent. All material world is dead when it is void of life's consciousness, i.e. humans, animals, birds, insects, plants, etc. As an example, it is the same as someone stealing your car you think you own, but mom and dad sold, or gift dead, it at conception on the assembly line, and then take the car with you in it to the crusher, and all the doors are locked, seemingly permanently. Well, the doors are unlocked now, where it can no longer be presumed that I have anything to do with the legal name, regardless of any all identification, because the original sin, crime, intent to deceive, aid and abet fraud already belongs to the owners and authors of the Crown Corporation. While much confusion and ignorance of this fact eludes most law enforcement and bar member Crown oath, it does not elude me. Therefore, 1, it is not my intent to commit fraud nor aid and abet anyone else into the same commission, omission thereof, where assumption, presumption of any all legal names, aliases, joinder via bearing false witness, etc., et al. Are concerned. And 2, any all attempts by, of, for, any all who assume, presume me, the life source consciousness, within my body reclaimed, will be deemed high treason against the creator of all itself, as I am part of all consciousness, and my Kur-Ti, heart and the law of truth, courts, and by virtue of your own rules, are now obligated to arrest, detain, incarcerate any and all legal named servants, slaves acting in any all titles, offices, etc., et al., who have attempted, are attempting, or will attempt to engage in pledge in this activity against me and any all those who know this fact. And 3, any all harms created against me, my family, and humanity must now be made right, where all things stolen, including time, must be put back in the hands of the true owners, where these crimes against me and us could only be fulfilled in, of, by, and for this Crown owner's oath intent to commit fraud ab initio. Do not expect me in any all of your courtrooms or venues, because it is not my wish to put you, myself, or anyone in the position of high treason, in the same way that those who serve the whore of Babylon Crown Corporation, via the mark of the beast, legal name, fraud with intent, by their own commission, omission, ignorance of this truth. As one of the true living beings on this planet, those that consent to be dead have no voice, where my voice shall command them now. I will simply now ask you, is it your intent to commit fraud or abet me into committing fraud knowingly? You are hereby commanded by me, the living, to contact me to make amends in all Crown Corporation frauds against me, that shall include, though not limited to, any and all who have committed fraud, borne false witness against me, where to not do so places you in high treason against the heart of all creation itself. Freely, by and of my own consent, let creation itself take its course. I judge not, lest I be judged. I, who am without legal name, wash my hands of those who are of unclean hands. Assumption, presumption of legal name, fraud, nulled and voided, nunc pro tunc pro nunc, ab initio ad infinitum, fiat justitia ruat caelum, denique ultimatum revirio verum. To fail in following your own laws, you render any all laws, statutes, null and void. If you are confused in any of these matters, please feel free to visit kateofgaia.wordpress.com at your leisure for a detailed explanation of countless ignorances removed. Ignorance of the true law is not a defense of or from it. Written with in Phoenician sonic definitions as defined only by me as per my intent, assumption and presumption of any all possibilities other than my own are destroyed ab initio. Read the following information as a courtesy on my part, lest you fear seeking truth any further, where this is already and forever will be your binding contract to make you right your ignorant ways. Your contract now by Kate of Gaia. Written with and in Phoenician sonic definitions, defined only by me as per my intent, assumption and presumption of any all possibilities other than my own are destroyed ab initio. Ignorance is not a defense. Time to wise up. To whom it may concern, legal names notwithstanding, where any and all names mentioned in this are not and will never be assumed presumed to be legal names, where any and all legal names are in fact aiding and abetting fraud. It is not my wish nor ever will be my wish to partake in any all frauds ab initio ad infinitum. So be advised that I am currently investigating an all too common situation of mistaken stolen identity false personation regarding fraudulent use of Crown copyright property, commonly known as the legal name. So as you are now fully aware, that applies to everybody. Isn't that fun? Yeah. Well, anyone that uses a legal name, I don't care if you're a bar member or not. Well, you're the ultimate fraudsters, aren't you? And you're sworn to it. Bye-bye, soul. Not talking about Korea here. Actually, I am. I'm talking about the core, Rhea. Isn't it funny? Soul, core, Rhea. Core, heart. Rhea, earth. You can't make this up. See, it's in everything. Anyway, inasmuch as all or anything legal are without standing in reality, or what you would deem to be the real world, most of humanity is duped into this fraud via the birth certificate fraud, deception, non-disclosure, legal name, false impersonation, etc., where legality is not reality as per their own maxims of law. Please read attached Babylon Has Fallen for a brief synopsis. You need to have a copy of Babylon Has Fallen if you're going to use this. It's free for everybody. Everything neutral. Please read attached Babylon Has Fallen for a brief synopsis of this scam of humanity as a whole, and be advised that any and all use of the legal name has you complicit in any and all crimes against humanity henceforth. Ooh, nasty contract, eh? As an investigative reporter and freelance journalist, I have an obligation to humanity to expose any and all of these crimes to my millions of listeners, followers worldwide, to bring a full awareness to the consciousness of humanity as a whole. In short, if you're playing with legal names and harming anyone by just doing my job, it sucks to be you in the same way that claim was made during the Nuremberg trials. Harming someone in the execution of your duties does not and will not absolve you of your free will choice to do so under any and all circumstances, where all are simply guilty in, by, and of their actions in the instant the crime is committed. No court required to prove self-guilt. If I cover the puck up, they might not think it's a goal. But you know it is. Crook. Children, man, I can't believe it. Supposedly professional sports players still trying to hide the fact that they stole a cookie. Fucking grown. Anyway, it has come to my attention that you, the living spirit occupying a Crown-owned copyrighted body, see Gift, Black's Law, page 757, Gift, abbreviation, Gamete, Interfallopian Transfer. Gift, noun, 12th century. The voluntary transfer of property to another without compensation. Cases, gifts, 1. 2, a thing so transferred. Gift, verb, absolute gift. See inter vivos, gift. Well, let's check that one out, shall we? Inter vivos means inter vivos. Where was it? Sorry, I've got the actual transferred or the definitions from the Black Magic book. 1 sec. Of or relating to property conveyed, not by will or in contemplation of an imminent death, but during the conveyor's lifetime. Inter vivos. Isn't that interesting? Property conveyed, not by will, so there's no will involved. Or in contemplation of an imminent death, so you're not expecting someone to die. Funny that. See gift. In short, the body is gift dead or gifted via the registering or surrendering the given name, thus gift, gamete, interfallopian transfer, or conception point, rendering the any and all bodies Crown copyright property by consent of the creators of that body, are therefore dead by your own admission upon any and all use of, by, for, in, use of, by, for, in any legal, all legal names, aliases, etc., and therefore have no claim against any and all who will otherwise. Truth does not require your belief where doubt exists. Truth merely seeks denial or acceptance where ignorance is fully removed. A fraud revealed is null and void, nunc pro tunc pro nunc, ab initio ad infinitum, where the birth certificate fraud with intent to deceive is revealed. Inasmuch as you are legally dead, proven with any and all Crown corpse identification use, you have no voice in this matter, where only the living can speak, since you are in fact a walking, talking fraud, false personator by your willful consent, by claiming to be using any forms of Crown Corporation identification. Definition: impersonation, the act of impersonating someone, also termed personation, false impersonation. The crime of falsely representing oneself as another person, in bold, usually a law enforcement officer for the purpose of deceiving someone. See 18 U.S.C.A. blah, blah, blah. Please note, it doesn't say someone pretending to be a law enforcement officer, but rather states clearly that it is usually a law enforcement officer, such is the letter of Luciferian law. Here's a little something else for you to ponder. With regards to bearing false witness, false personation, fabricating false evidence, giving or fabricating false evidence with intent to procure conviction of a capital offense. Whoever gives or fabricates false evidence, intending thereby to cause or knowing it to be likely that he will thereby cause any person to be convicted of an offense which is capital by this code, or under any other law for the time being in force, shall be punished with imprisonment for life, or with imprisonment for a term which may extend to 20 years, and shall also be liable to fine. And if an innocent person is convicted and executed in consequence of such false evidence, by the way, anytime you ask for a name, you are spiritually murdering someone with intent. So this is why it's capital. The person who gives such false evidence shall be punished either with death or the punishment herein before described. An eye for an eye, kind of how it works. Any and all claims made to force assumption or presumption is, in fact, fabricating false evidence, bearing false witness, where a living spirit is being legally murdered to entice them into commission of fraud and slavery, and is treason upon the living spirit of that being. Any all agents of, for, by, in their oath to the owners of the Crown Corporation are in fact dead by consent. Where bearing false witness, false personation, fabricating false evidence is the very nature of their professions, for to make weary, Latin, professio. If you are holding, causing to be held, obtaining, harming, imprisoning, arresting, injecting, force-feeding poisons, also known as drugs, restraining, murdered, threatened, stolen from, raped, etc., any and all beings who have, of their own free will choice, made you aware that they are removed from any all assumption, presumption of fraudulent legal names, aliases, etc., et al., you are guilty of the aforementioned charges that rule the dead by consent beings that believe, duped into thinking, convinced they are a legal name or legal names, are in fact delusional and literally psychopathic, sociopathic in nature. Feel free to research and prove this otherwise. It is now incumbent upon you to remedy your own delusions in this matter, and in this regard, lest you continue to harm another living being. The birth certificate is prima facie evidence of the owners of the purpose of procuring identification to exist or life-sist in the whore of Babylon commerce using their mark of the beast. At least now you know what those terms were referring to all along. Have a nice day. Please read the following. And I added a couple of things that I've already shared on the air, so I'm not going to bother.